Back, everyone. I'm so glad when we can talk with a local author because everybody always has so much to say that really impacts your life. Our next guest is an author named David Schaub, and he is the title of this book, Never Complete, Becoming Who We Were Meant to Be. Welcome, David. Nice to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You know, you're a young guy, but yet you have had a lot of living that created this book.
Right.
So tell me about your life, where you started, and then when things turned around for you.
Yeah, that's a lot in a short period of time, but give you a 30,000-foot view in 30 seconds of my life. My dad went to prison when I was 5. My parents were divorced at that time. My mom got remarried when I was 8. And he was an alcoholic and left us abruptly when I was 17 years old, leaving behind 2 daughters, my 2 half-sisters at 2 and 8. I was arrested 5 times before I was 20, and I was kicked out of college with a .86 GPA, so I guess the apple didn't fall too far from the tree, as some people would say. But at the age of 20, or I'll kind of fast forward a little bit further, I started 2 businesses from the ground up, both making 6 figures from both business endeavors by the time I was 26. At that point, I really just wanted to give back. So I wrote that book, and it really tells my story in a nutshell. And I just wanted to share my story because we all have a story to tell.
And you know, David, when I heard the beginning of your story, I thought you are the person who you can say, I can understand this guy ending up in jail. You had nothing going for you. But you didn't stay that way. You found God. I know that's a big part of your story. And you turned things around, and you talk to other people about doing this as well, but I don't want people to think this is a how-to manual, because it's not.
Yeah, because I feel like most self-help books, and just like you, I've read hundreds of books about leadership, financial, spiritual, you name it, I've practically read it. And I feel like a lot of them are like 5 keys to do this, 10 keys to do this, and if you do this, you become B. So I more of try to ask questions, because I hate being told what to do. At least when I was young, I hated it. I was a little rebel. So I more of like to not tell people what to do, just more like, here's my story, and here are some questions to ask you so you can figure out yours. And I feel like most books say, again, do this and you'll become. I'm more of like, hey, you already are great where you are, and I feel like, at least my motto is, I think who you're becoming is way more important than what you're doing. So I talk more about that.
But what do you think flipped the switch with you?
Yeah, everybody has that little turning point in their life. Mine was when I was doing 6 months of weekends, where I got in trouble, and I did 6 months of weekends where I literally drove myself to jail on Friday and then got out on Sunday. And when I got out, my sister was probably 5 years old at the time, and it's in the book, but to get it short, is when I came home and said, hey, Natalie, give me a hug, because you miss anybody after being in the jail cell for 3 days. And she goes, hey, go back to jail. And she ran away, giggling, thinking she had no idea what she said to me. But it really hurt me, and I realized if you know, my life ended today, 20 years old, I would be a nobody, and I would have no impact on this world. So at that point, I started taking next steps to, towards what I am now.
David, this is a terrific book, and I know you do a lot of lecturing. Do you ever go to the jails and to the prisons and talk? Because that would be, I would think, the moment where people would really heed this message. You
know what? I guess, even though I've been arrested 5 times, it was for minuscule stuff, like running over mailboxes and lighting off fireworks in people's homes. Even though I did 6 months of weekends, before that I was a pretty good kid. I got a perfect attendance award in high school, so I wasn't a bad kid. So I don't think I could resonate with that crowd as much as they think they can. I more resonate with the young adults who really just feel like they have nowhere to go, or they don't know what to do, or a lot of us just don't know what our purpose for our life is. Or we feel like we don't know what our destiny is.
And that is so important, especially when you start out the way you did, kind of from a broken home and mixed messages, coming to you. Where do I fit in this world? Who am I? And you found who you are, though, and and that's why this is such a great read. Because you consider yourself an imperfect person.
Very.
But the thing is that you still have a message for a lot of people to say, you can turn this around. You're young enough, no matter really how old you are in life, you can do this. And I give you so much credit for that. And again, David's a Buffalo boy, everybody. So if you're wondering if he's from Western New York, you are.
Yeah, I went to Cheektowaga Central, graduated in '05. So hello, Cheektowaga alumni. But again, I really felt like growing up, eventually when I became quote-unquote successful, buying my first house at 24, I had 2 cars in the driveway, it was vacation 4 or 5 times a year. If you name a place in the world, I've probably been there. But I really thought success meant, knowing, or I guess you would say, the typical thing of doing what I want, when I want, how often I want, as much as I want. But I've had that life. And I really felt that for me, success anyways is knowing who I am, knowing what I was created to do, and then doing that one next step at a time. Not knowing where I'm going to be necessarily in 5, 10 years, even though goals are great, but taking it one next step at a time.
Now, where can people get your book?
Really, any online store, whether it's Barnes & Noble's, Amazon,
Amazon.com,
Kindle,
they're great.
you know, Nooks, basically anything you can.
And it's also at, you have a book signing. We want everybody to know that is going to be at the Bender's Christian Bookstore in Williamsville.
Yeah.
When is that?
It's March 3rd. It's the first Saturday in March between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m.
Okay. So listen, if you're looking for David's story, you're going to get a lot out of this book, but you're going to get to meet the guy, you know, himself and talk to him. And I think you're going to be really inspired. You think you have another book in you?
Actually, I already wrote my second book.
Really?
Yeah, and that's actually free. It's called How to Feel Empowered When You're Overwhelmed.
Oh,
and it's on Kindle. It's absolutely free. And again, I know a lot of, especially college students, they're broke. And so when I speak, and in fact, my most popular speech I feel like I've been booked for is How to Feel Empowered When You're Overwhelmed. Because I feel like whether we're 18 or 108, we often feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
So I try to help them take their next steps and ask a lot of questions. So in that book, it's only 40 pages long because they're already have tasks with 1 million pages to read during each semester. So I want to make it short, to the point, and effective.
And I want people to know that spirituality means a lot to you.
Yeah.
You credit a lot of that to spirituality.
Yeah, and I don't like to preach to people. I hate when people preach to me, but everything that I am is just by, and everything I am empowered by is God's grace and His love for me every day. Because I am an imperfect person. I have faults. I don't have it all together. I never want to have the facade that I have it all together. So I'm more just empowered by His grace and love every single day. And so because of that, I'm working from victory, not for victory. I get to do significant things because I already am significant. I don't do things to earn favor. I do things because I already am favored. So that is just my motto, and I would be nothing without it.
Isn't that beautifully said? That's why you're going to want to read this book. It will maybe change your life in a wonderful way. And it might be the kind of book that you want to pass on to somebody who you really feel needs David's message. All right, David Schaub has written this great book, Never Complete, Becoming Who We Were Meant to Be. And I want to let you know once again, David has a book signing that's coming up March 3rd, 11 to 2 at the Bender's Christian Bookstore in Williamsville, or find this book through davidschaub.org or amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, right? You can get it. But do ask for it because it's a wonderful book, and maybe you're going to come back when we talk about book 2, okay?
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be great, all right? Especially because it's free.
Yeah, all right.
David, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
God bless and continue on. It's wonderful to have met you.
Thank you. Same here.
We'll take a break and be right back.